The introduction of weight classes into the UFC wasn't immediate. The first 13 events had one open weight class allowing anyone to compete regardless of size or weight. In most circumstances, as you would imagine, this favoured the larger fighters. But in those earlier days, what captivated the wider audience was the fact that sometimes the smaller fighter overcame seemingly insurmountable odds using skill and technique.
Fatigue got him, baby.
I think fatigue got to him. He went too hard, too soon, too often.
With no weight class limits, we saw such spectacles as Emmanuel Yarborough standing 6'8" and tipping the scales at 616 pounds, taking on the impressively average 5'11", 200-pound Keith Hackney. Hackney, holding black belts in traditional martial arts, landed a palm strike on the face of Yarborough, dropping him before the clock hit 2 minutes. The more impressive David and Goliath victories, however, were owned by the legendary Royce Gracie, who consistently came in under 180 pounds, but was able to subdue such monsters as Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn, and Kimo Leopoldo.
Again today you shot right in. Talk about your strategy in winning the finals.
My strategy, it's not to give them a chance to hit me. I don't want to get hit. That's the main thing. There's no change on me.
No change in you?
Money or no money. I'm not here for the money. I'm here for the honor of the family, for the name that the family's been putting up for the last 65 years.
A special day for you, a special day for your dad and your whole family.
Yes.
Congratulations on the $50,000 and being the Ultimate Fighting Champion. With that, let's go to Bill.
One thing prevalent in the first few events was the lack of one complete martial art that could withstand the test of all ranges. The traditional striking arts such as karate, kung fu and taekwondo, although widespread and popular, proved to be tragically inadequate in the grappling range. A vulnerability preyed on so well by Royce Gracie.
Royce is not letting him go. He wants to make sure the referee sees that this is over. That is the power of jiu-jitsu in action. Simply incredible. These folks are going wild.
With awareness of the submission threat, wrestlers began cross-training so they could defend the attack while still dominating on the ground. This, combined with the rigorous physical preparations that wrestlers were accustomed to in high school and college, allowed the American wrestlers to begin having greater success.
He caught the leg and brought him to the ground. He's really trying to choke now. That's it, he's got him. What a move by Dan Severn. And it didn't take him long. He will benefit from a short time in the octagon.
Hammer House was a good example of this, and their leader and UFC heavyweight champion Mark the Hammer Coleman, whose usual game plan would be to control from the top position using punches, elbows and headbutts to break his opponent down and get the stoppage victory.
The few fans that put a little cash on me, all right. And the ones you dumbasses bet your house, too bad. I told you not to bet the house. Don't ever bet the house against me. Enough said.
Mixed martial arts, now with a visible platform in North America, evolved very quickly from style versus style format to fighters coming in with the necessary skills to compete in several ranges, or at the very least, to have the knowledge and skills to try and keep the fight in their strongest range. As the martial arts continued to be mixed in a live environment, there was a shedding process, allowing fighters to streamline their training and make it more focused on higher percentage techniques from a variety of disciplines. They attempted to integrate these pieces into one solve-all system, and that helped shape what we consider to be the fundamental techniques of any decent MMA fighter's arsenal. Specialists still had great success, but they too had to adapt to survive. Kickboxers learned some defensive wrestling, and submission fighters needed wrestling offense in order to ground their foe. The wrestling contingent still continued to have a strong showing, and now their recruiting of fundamental striking and submission skills positioned them at the top of the MMA food chain, mainly due to the fact that they could keep their opponent at the range they least preferred, grapple with strikers, and strike with submission artists. This is where terms such as sprawl and brawl and ground and pound were born, and these became styles in themselves, synonymous with certain gyms and fighters who employed them consistently. This fairly rapid evolution led to a much more competitive fights where size and condition became more of a factor, and at UFC 12 a division was made at 200 pounds, giving the fighters two options: you can be lighter or heavier. The introduction of two separate tournaments in one event allowed two storylines and the potential for a second champion in the future. With the popularity growing at a rapid rate, more events were needed and more fighters wanted to compete in the famed UFC octagon.
What do you look for in your future with the UFC? What would you like to do next?
I would like to, to fight. All my life is fighting. And I hope I can fight with the champion, with a champion again, because the best fighters right now is over here in UFC.
To accommodate more athletes in the ever-deepening talent pool, lightweight, which was anything below 200 pounds at the time, was rebranded middleweight. This changed at UFC 14, and at UFC 16 a lightweight division was re-added, this time at 170 pounds and below.
In the matchup against Chris Brennan, that went the distance.
We have a winner of the UFC 16 lightweight tournament, Mr.
It was by tap out. It was by tap out.
We now had three weight divisions. Anything over 200 pounds was considered heavyweight, with Randy Couture holding the title after a unanimous decision over Maurice Smith at UFC Japan. Below 200 pounds were the middleweights, ruled by Frank Shamrock. And then the newly formed 170 pound division and its new champion, Pat Miletich. Things settled down for a short while and the three weight classes delivered many exciting fights. Heavyweight continued to thrive and the fighters with a good balance of size and athleticism ruled the octagon.
Heavyweight championship of the world, Kevin Randleman.
The 30-pound division below 200 pounds became very competitive, with most fighters coming in close to the top of the weight class or cutting down from over 200 pounds to step on the scales. This weight class housed such greats as Frank Shamrock, Tito Ortiz, Wanderlei Silva and Chuck Liddell, and delivered some awesome fast-paced fights which displayed some of the best mixing of martial arts that we'd seen to date.
Tito Ortiz is the new UFC middleweight champion.
Lightweight had no lower limit, so some of the fighters were large for 170 pounds, others were clearly undersized. Although matchmaking attempted to give each fighter a fair shot, by the time UFC 26 arrived, a bantamweight division had been added for fighters below the 155 pound limit. At UFC 30, a bantamweight title was awarded after a close-fought battle between Cal Luno and Jens Pulver. After 5-minute rounds, Pulver was awarded the unanimous decision, but after this event, weight classes would experience one more major shake-up, and Jens would progress as the lightweight champion in his subsequent defences. Bantamweight becomes lightweight for anyone stepping on the scales at 155 pounds and below. Under 170 became welterweight, and middleweight was capped at 185 pounds. What was middleweight was moved up 5 pounds to 205 pounds and became light heavyweight.
Yeah, Randy might be hurt. Randy trying to close in though now. And he goes down. He's down. And Chuck Liddell. Oh, he is out. Light heavyweight champion of the world. Randy Couture is Chuck Liddell is the light heavyweight champion.
Unbelievable! Wow! And now, the new UFC undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world, the Iceman, Chuck Liddell.
The next additions to the weight classes wouldn't come until December of 2010, where bantamweight, now below 135, and featherweight were taken on as part of the WEC merger. Not long after that, at UFC 157 in February of 2013, Liz Carmouche and Ronda Rousey made their way to the octagon for the first ever female fight in the UFC.
Finish for the champion
of the world,
Since then, with continued growth, we've seen women's featherweight, flyweight and strawweight divisions added, and as the popularity of mixed martial arts continues to grow, I expect many more to come in the future.